Hold on. Oh, here we go. From 1 to 100. This is a podcast where we talk about building your YouTube community from 1, that's you, to 100 so that you can make a living doing what you love. On the show, we talk about how to build a business as a YouTube creator in the enthusiasm economy. And I'm your host, Heather Ramirez, and this is episode 19 of From 1 to 100. Yay! All right, everybody. So for today's episode, I am excited about our guest today because one thing that I've noticed myself talking about, or, I listen to all of my podcasts and live streams, especially when it comes to the passion economy / enthusiasm economy, at least once, just to take the creator hat off, listen to it from a viewer's perspective, and just have all of the, revelations marinate and stuff like that. And I think one of the things that I am unintentionally doing is almost pitting the creator economy versus the passion economy, kind of up against each other. And I think, that's definitely not how I want to come off. And, I think that I focus so much on, hey, the podcast is called From 1 to 100. And I'm all about hey, we want to build a tight knit community because you don't need these huge numbers to see success on YouTube. And anyone, you can define your way of success however you want it. YouTube has its methods, but you could also define it however you want. But that's not to say that the big guys on the platform aren't playing a huge role in terms of how the platform changes, how the platform evolves, how, viewers are consuming content and all of those things. So I'm excited to have today JEFE Reviews, Jeff, who is a fellow YouTube creator. He's been creating on the platform for 4 years, but he's also the customer success manager over at VidIQ, which is a tool to help YouTube creators accelerate their views and subscribers. So Jeff, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Yay. I'm excited that you are here. So Jeff, can you give a little more intro or, for people who don't know who you are and what your channel is about?
Sure. Yeah, I'm just some dude on the internet wearing sunglasses, talking about stuff. No, I'm just kidding. So, yeah, basically, I've been a content creator for the past 4 years. My own channel, JEFE Reviews, essentially a tech channel, but I focus on audio products, headphones, earbuds, speakers, things of that nature. Professionally, about a year ago, I switched careers and I now work directly for vidIQ as one of the customer success managers. And my role there is to speak directly with our customers on how to best make use of the tools that we offer, and to also talk about YouTube strategy, answer a lot of questions, and probably most importantly, manage expectations.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it comes down to is managing expectations, because there's definitely people. I mean, I think that's kind of one of the, pillars behind why I do what I do, is because I've seen it over and over. People will come in, they'll be so excited about YouTube, and then they have all this enthusiasm and creativity, and it's like this new thing that they're trying out, new hobby. And we all know what it's like when you discover a new thing, you just throw your all into it, and then you're not seeing success and you burn out and you quit, right? So you've caught some of this show, and I was wondering, off the top of your head, or just kind of to start, is there something that I'm missing in terms of from the bigger creators perspective in terms of success on YouTube? Does that make sense?
I mean, so far, I don't believe so. I don't think you're missing that perspective. But I think we sort of learn over time, sort of
Yeah.
what they're doing, sort of what's working for them, what isn't. I think a lot of and I'm assuming, I mean, you probably have this mindset already anyway, but from speaking to a lot of our customers, especially the ones that are, silver play button holders and higher,
Yeah.
has been that a lot of their focus tends to shift at a certain point
Right.
away. While some of them still maintain the mentality of subscriber growth and going after those numbers, I've normally seen a split two ways. where one, they're really focusing heavy on their business and diversifying revenue streams, and some of the others are really focusing heavy on their community and how they can make their content better specifically for their viewers. Very rarely will I speak to somebody at 200,000 or 500,000 or a million who is, how can I get to the 2 million? Like that, it's not that they're not doing it. I think at a certain point they have so much momentum that they no longer are worried about it. So they're just focusing on other aspects of their business.
That's interesting. So it's almost like a small creator. Okay, so someone who starts out on YouTube has no idea what they're doing. They're just uploading videos, and of course, they're
Yep.
going to go for growth, views, subscribers, all of that.
Mm.
And then what happened to me was I was like, hey, YouTube is a great tool to help me build a business. And I could, of course, grow the channel. That will always help the business. But right now, it's like YouTube is a tool for doing that. If you cross silver play button, I would think that, or this is kind of where I'm hoping you can fill in these assumptions I'm making, is a lot of the income is coming from things like sponsorships, YouTube ads, and affiliates. So I feel like there's a phase in there where it's like, okay, we still want there to be growth, but now you're saying, okay, there is a point where it's like the momentum is going to be there, and it's more of like, how do we keep this brand, this lifestyle, how do we make sure that it continues? Does that make
Right.
sense? Is that how
Yeah,
you're saying?
absolutely. Yeah, that's a lot of it. What I'll see is they start kind of having more high level thinking of how to make it sustainable and
Mm,
how to diversify on their platforms. At least the smart ones, that's what they're doing. They're making exclusive content for TikTok, exclusive content for Instagram, putting videos up on Facebook or LinkedIn. So they've got content strategy across different platforms, to make sure not only that they're diversifying, for revenue, but they're diversifying in case one of the platforms, goes down or whatever it might be. But I think that's sort of where they're at, is more sustainability, because the momentum's there. There's actually a channel who I'm very familiar with who retired a little over a year ago. And when he retired, the channel was at 900,000 subscribers, and he retired, didn't put out a single video now for almost 18 months, I would say. And his channel crossed a million subscribers. I think he's at 1.1 now, and that's just based purely on momentum. So that's what I mean, where at a certain point the ball is rolling,
mm-hmm.
and even if you're not putting out videos, you've built up such a catalog, that the momentum is just going to keep rolling. So if he was still making videos like some of these other creators that I speak with, they're not really worried about that as much anymore. And I think that's a mentality that I started adopting very early on myself. I think it was around probably 5 or 10K subs on my channel where I started kind of making that realization. And I'm not saying that subscribers aren't important, because I love
Right.
celebrating the milestones with my
Yeah.
community. They love being a part of that journey.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but for me, that's not so much the goal anymore.
Yeah.
More than anything, the goal is essentially what you said, is finding a way to make this sustainable, finding a way to diversify more than anything else, just to make sure that I can ensure a better life for my family.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the end goal for a lot of YouTube creators is like, I want to be an independent, like self-employed YouTube creator. And however that looks, whether you're doing services or you sell products or you got merch or, however diversified income streams you want to set up, we just want to keep this going, and you don't always have to be on that like constant chase of numbers in order to do that. Um, could you talk a little bit about like YouTube strategy in terms of like someone who's just starting out? So this show is like, okay, we're building our YouTube community from 1 to 100. How would you say YouTube strategy, like what would you recommend to someone who's going to start today, and like maybe how has it shifted versus someone who would have started like 4 years ago? Because I feel like there has been a
Mm,
lot of changes.
there have been changes because there's additional platforms and stuff, but more than anything, I would want a new creator to really focus on one. You have to start somewhere. So I wouldn't want somebody to get overwhelmed by trying to focus on so many different things in so many different places. More than anything else, for somebody new, I would preach consistency, which is something that I normally do, and where to really start building up those muscles, because there's a lot of creators who just start out and they don't have a background in video production or YouTube or any of that stuff, or even social media for that matter. So I would want them to get out and knock out their first 50 videos, their first 100 videos, because that journey teaches you so much. There's so much on the job training that happens with being a creator that you can't skip that portion of it unless you're just going to go straight out and hire an editor or something. So there's a lot of learning to be had, and I think that's the biggest thing is to make yourself a promise. If you're going to invest in this, invest time into it, then promise yourself, hey, I'm going to get one video out per week, for a year or whatever it is, and kind of see where the cards lie after that. That's what I did for myself. And I think that was the most powerful thing, because it taught me habits and the journey um, from starting out to that 50th video, or I think it was around 55 videos after the first 12 months. I learned so much. It was such a huge jump in quality, so to speak, at the time. But I think that's the most important thing for somebody starting out is just to really get those videos done.
Yeah, Keith, thanks for the super sticker, man. Oh, I was gonna read this out. It's a super sticker, but Ecamm is telling me it's a hippo character spins around in his chair. Oh my goodness. Okay, so on the job training, I love that. I love that concept because I think we hear about these like breakthrough YouTube creators that like go viral or whatever, have overnight success, or maybe even 6 months to a year, and they've got the silver play button. But I honestly believe that that's not the norm. I think that's the exception to the rule. But here's what I want to ask you, since you talk to so many creators regularly. Am I being optimistic, or do you believe that honestly anybody could see success on YouTube regardless of your background, your videography skills, your niche, your all of that? Do you think that it is possible for anyone who actually like wants to commit, dedicate themselves, and try it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the thing. I believe anyone can do it if they're willing to put in the work. If they're willing to invest the time that it's going to take and understand that it's very similar to building a business where you are going to be operating at a loss for years before you see a profit or a turnaround on what you're doing. So if you go into it with that mindset and just put your head down, learn as much as you can along the way, work hard and stay consistent, then we can see it. There's a lot of creators out here who would not be considered viral type creators or super charismatic or anything like that. Very a lot of us are very introverted,
Mhm.
um, but they're being extremely successful. One of the biggest creators out there, at least that's well known in our space, is Roberto Blake. And he's one of the people that'll tell you that like he's not that type of person. He's not that personality that would go viral, but he's done it through sheer willing to learn and hard work. And I think what's he up to, like 1,500 videos or something? I
Mhm.
mean, it's just putting in the work. So I don't see why anybody couldn't do it if they dedicated themselves and really tried to hone their craft and practice at it. Every time you put up a video, you're practicing at it. But even beyond that, like I know for myself, to get comfortable as I am, like right now, speaking with you or speaking on camera, was beyond me just making videos. It was every time that I was in my car during my 90-minute commute to and from work, I was talking out videos to myself just to get myself comfortable with speaking. So it's how much are you willing to dedicate yourself to it?
Yeah. Um, I love that. I love how, because for me, it's like, I think, if you have no idea about YouTube, you just think, oh, you're making videos. But like literally every skill can be transferred or applied in terms of the YouTube world, because, it's just being a person, it's
Yeah.
relationship building. Um, okay. So let's go back to the bigger creators for a little bit. What is
Mhm.
something, because you've seen behind the scenes in terms of how they operate, what is like their strategy, their typical model? How is it different from like, sub silver play button, like 100,000 subscribers or less? What are things that we can take away from them? Things like that.
What I would say, if anything, at least with the very like the larger channels, one of the things that I noticed is that as they got bigger, they started buying time back. Whether it was from editors, graphic designers, they started building a team around themselves in order to be able to be consistent on their channel to produce this content consistently. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I started really noticing. Now, there's other creators who still remain solo, even at a high level, where they really love doing everything. Like they love dealing with all of the business side of it, but also dealing with all the production and all the creative. Um, so there's those guys as well. But one of the things I noticed from a lot of the bigger channels that are now taking it as a business, especially 1 million plus, is team building. That's like a major thing for them. So usually when I'll speak to them, I'm usually not just speaking to the one creator who's on the camera, but I'm usually speaking to their social media guy and their editor and their script writer. So that's one of the more interesting things I've seen in those conversations.
Yeah. The convo says, great question, Heather. I love that answer, bro. I've seen this happen in my music career. I was a musician first, but some were musicians and became successful because they put in the work. Chip says, overnight success is rarely a result of a plan, but having a plan is more likely to result in long term success.
Yeah.
Homesick Mac, Rhoda Blake, one of my faves. He's a talker and consistent like
Oh yeah.
hell. Yes. Yeah. So, can you talk about vidIQ? So I told you before
Sure.
the stream that I use TubeBuddy. I used to use both of them, and I don't. They look similar to me in terms of like they provide me with some insights in terms of like tags and keywords. But talk about vidIQ specifically and how YouTube creators can use it to help them grow their channel.
Yeah, sure. I mean, much like, a lot of the tools that are out there are going to provide you with some similarities. Like there's keyword research that's obviously useful for channels, especially starting out. So keyword research is always helpful. Plus, tags, they make it very easy to find tags. We'll give you tag suggestions. You'll find that on both tools as well. Some of the stuff that I really like about our tool in specifically is we have a tool called Channel Audit, which for people starting out, or actually even veteran creators, can find this useful. Is that it takes a snapshot of your analytics and then it gives it to you in a very simple and easy to understand way. So instead of having to dig through menus and menus and menus in the YouTube studio trying to find this information, we present it to you right up front, really easy to see and understand. Here's what's working on your channel. Here's what's getting you more subscribers. Here's your top search keywords. There's even a hidden gem in there where it pulls up the videos that are giving you suggested traffic. So there's a lot of stuff like that that's really useful in that one particular tool. Another tool that I really like about what we're offering is competitor tracking. So where you can build up a list, whether it's 3, 6, 10, 15 creators that are in your same niche, what some people would call their niche neighbors. You can put them all in a list and you can start seeing how does your channel stack up against them. Like, are you getting the same amount of views? Are you pulling in the same amount of subs? But more than anything else, I'm not using it as a comparison to make myself feel bad. I'm pulling in creators that are normally outperforming me, because if we're in the same niche and we're talking about the same things, I want to know. I want to use them as a use case. Like, what are they doing in their thumbnails that are better than mine, that are getting more attention? What are their titles like? What's the title structure looking like? But also topics. What topics are they talking about? Are they trending? Why are they getting so many views on this? And then I even make it a point to actually watch their videos to see how they put them together. How are their intros? Do they even have intros? And how do they structure their videos? Because I want to see exactly why they're outperforming me so I can apply those strategies to myself. So it sort of flips the vidIQ tool from being something like keyword research and starts turning it into almost a spy tool on the successful creators that you put into that list.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I think I remember seeing that somewhere and I was like, oh man,
Mhm.
this is like super helpful because I struggle with like what is going to be my next video because I have a
Mhm.
bunch of video ideas, but it's like the prioritization of it all. I get
Yeah.
lost
Yeah.
in that. Um, so I have a question about like, how do I ask this? So, how would you suggest someone find a balance between audience building in terms of like YouTube subscribers and community building? Because I've seen this on Twitter when people tag YouTube creators or just like, random discussions that kind of float in my feed where people who have like I remember this one channel who had like, I don't know, 850,000 subscribers and was like, I'm nowhere near able to quit my full-time job. And I found that fascinating because Tom has 75,000 and
Mhm.
quit his full-time job. So, you know, I think sometimes what, personally, even me, I've run into is like YouTube or a tool can tell me like, hey, make more videos about this, but that's not necessarily what I want to make a video about. So like, how do you find that balance between like chasing numbers, chasing those green arrows, and like staying true to what you want to do, even though that video might tank?
Yeah. So that's something where there was a good strategy that I heard at Vid Summit of all places, but it was Sarah Dietschy who had done this whole thing about making two videos for them and one for yourself. Now that's not the balance that I personally use, but every now and then that's what I'll do. But now I've actually worked it out a little bit better for myself, where the Sunday live show is very fluid in what it's going to be about. Normally the actual topic isn't normally finalized until a couple of hours prior. So if I want it to be about a topic that I wouldn't normally make a video about, then I can do that as my live show, because then the numbers kind of don't matter and it's very community oriented anyway. And then I leave my regular video uploads to be the stuff that my audience wants to see. Because I have the mentality of I've switched out algorithm with audience. So I'm not chasing the
Mm,
algorithm. I'm chasing what my audience wants. What does my audience want to see from me? So my dedicated videos are dedicated to them. Then the live streams, it can be a balance of about them, but also about me or something that I personally want to share with them. So that's sort of the balance that I've sort of found with it. But I think creators have to find a way of balancing that stuff out. And hopefully, if you're lucky, then you get into making content about something that you're passionate about.
right.
So if you can pull that off, I mean that's the golden ticket. And I think I'm one of the lucky few, because I love music and I love headphones. So that's one of the things where it goes hand in hand, where now putting in the work of testing this stuff, to me is fun. Even though technically it's quote unquote work
Work.
on my
Yeah.
channel, it's fun for me.
It's still fun.
So
Hmm.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
you
It's
just
like
have
you
to try
said,
to find that balance.
yeah, it's the golden ticket. And I think that, you know, that's why I pause whenever I hear someone who's like, oh, I want to be a YouTuber, or, it's just like, oh man, that's so hard. Like, I couldn't even tell you how to get to 100,000. I'm nowhere near that, but I could totally tell you how to run a business, or like create content and build a community around something that that is like exciting to you, where it's like work, but it doesn't feel like work. To the point where like, it's like living with another content creator is just being, it's doing YouTube with my best friend, and we
Mhm.
can't stop talking about it. So it's a problem, but it's a fun problem to have. Um, Really quick. So if you guys are just tuning in, this is Jeff JEFE Reviews on YouTube, also customer success manager over at vidIQ. So if you have any questions for him, please feel free to join us in the comments. Let's see. Jack says, I think the beauty of YouTube is even the big creators all do things a little different, unlike network produced content. Yes, that's like definitely one of my favorite things about YouTube is everyone does it a little bit differently. Let's see, quality over quantity. And Aubrey's here. Zen Canuck is here. What's up, everybody? Okay, cool. So let me ask you this, Jeff.
Mhm.
So you've built your own channel. You work with vidIQ. You talk to creators all the time. What are like, let's say, three things that, regardless of what niche you're in, or experience level when it comes to video, are just like, you got to do these three things on YouTube for sure to see any kind of success, like regardless of trends or anything like that? This is kind of like, you know part of the territory.
Yeah. So I think more than anything else, the themes that I'll find consistent amongst channels that I talk to, regardless of size, is number one, and most importantly, is to be consistent, and not just consistent as in you're uploading every Wednesday, but consistent in your upload schedule, of course, but consistent in your message and consistent in your target audience. Who are you talking to? So I think that's probably the most important thing. Secondly, focusing on your audience, figuring out exactly what audience you want to build. Not necessarily the audience that's coming to your videos, but I mean, if those two things are the same, then cool. But if you really want to build your audience, a specific user, like I know a channel who is very, very much so targeting people with high income, because he wants his channel to be high conversion on his affiliates. So he's targeting that type of an audience, and that's what he wants to build, and that's what he's done. But really focusing in, figuring out exactly who you want your audience to be. Do you want it to be gamers? Do you want it to be kids? Do you want it to be you know, mothers, you know, whoever it might be, really figure out exactly that person that you're speaking to. And I think that's probably one of the most important things you can do. And then third, don't be afraid of the analytics. Don't be afraid to learn what those numbers are telling you. Don't be afraid to watch different videos. Don't be afraid to remain a student. You have to remain open to this stuff, because the reason they give us these analytics, the reason they give us this data, is so that we can have a better idea of what's working on our channel and what isn't, and what the audience wants from us and what they don't.
Yeah, that's totally true. So, I mean, you saying that actually makes me want to say this. I know I say, it's not about the numbers, or like you don't have to chase numbers, but that's not to say that you shouldn't be looking at your YouTube analytics in terms of understanding the data, because how are you going to make decisions? You want to be able to make more well-informed decisions, because heck, YouTube will take as much time and money as you are willing to give it. We can spend all
Mhm.
day. We could be here forever. And you could just be spinning in circles if you're not actually using the data. Now, if YouTube is telling you, hey, make more of this video, and you're not cool with that, or if it's not, like, obviously it's still your decision. So use that data to make more well-informed decisions, but then also to gauge how you're going to apply what you really want to do, and like how you define success on YouTube. So that's a really, really good point. Are you seeing any YouTube trends right now? Like, obviously, we're still going through a global pandemic, and I know, in the past year, live streaming has like gone out the window. But is there anything else that you're seeing that's like really changing on the platform, or even from like the YouTube creator standpoint? Is there a change in strategy or something that people are kind of focusing on?
I think what we've seen a lot of is how they introduce shorts and the impact that TikTok made on YouTube's own strategy. So we've seen a lot of channels that have either adopted a hybrid strategy of bringing out both short and long form content, or started secondary channels to bring out just short form content. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that we've seen over the past year. Um, Probably more than that. Aside from that, trend wise, not much more that I can think of on top of that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's one of the biggest things that's really been a focus for a lot of channels.
Yeah, everyone's talking about shorts, and I'm just like, too soon to tell. I don't know. Like, I've seen a lot of
Yeah.
people do, like, I haven't seen a pattern that's like, oh, this is the way to do it, because I've seen people do kind of execute in a variety of ways. Uh, how important do you think tags are? Because I know YouTube says like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, but what do you
Yeah.
think?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, and I've spoken with, I've had the pleasure of speaking with engineers too, in some of the clubhouse rooms that we've been in, and
Yeah.
asked that question directly. So here's the thing: for established channels and people who've been in the game already for a while, it's probably the least important of the metadata that you can use. But if you are just starting out, if somebody
Hmm.
who's under 1,000 subs, then please use every tool to your advantage, because
Right.
when you're still under 1,000 subs, normally the YouTube algorithm has not figured out what your channel's about. They have not figured out who your target audience is. So make sure that you're being consistent in the metadata that you're putting in the tags, in your description, in your title, your thumbnail, and the actual words that you're saying in your video. Make sure you're actually verbalizing those keywords, because we know the YouTube is automatically creating a transcript. So we
Hmm.
know that it's reading what you're saying. And I think Rob from vidIQ a couple of weeks ago, he actually showed a video proving how YouTube is using this to rank and to surface videos in search.
Yeah.
So even if you don't have it in your metadata, it will pull it up just because you said it in the video. So
Yeah.
use all the tools to your advantage, and tools like vidIQ, tools like TubeBuddy make it so easy. You can do it in 30 seconds and don't have to think about it.
Yeah. Totally. I think that I haven't been emphasizing search enough, but it's like 40% of my traffic, and I mean, my channel would not be what it is if not for search. So when I'm like a big proponent of like YouTube SEO and optimizing all your content and stuff like that. And here's the thing, like if you can use tools like vidIQ to help you optimize your videos, you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck. You know, like that will really help set your video up for success, where you can now start to see momentum like these other bigger channels where their videos are still working for them even though they're not necessarily uploading regularly.
Yeah.
You know, that's what can happen. So
And that's actually how
uh,
I found your channel.
oh, really?
Yeah, I swear. Yeah, because I was just telling my wife the story, and I was like, yeah, I found her channel because I was looking for alternatives to creating thumbnails and banners, and I came across your Canva tutorials, and I was just, when I clicked on the video, and I was like, I don't know who Heather is, but I like her vibe, like the presence. When I noticed like the way the videos looked, the presence, and everything, it didn't match the subscriber number. I'm like, this girl should have far more subscribers than she has because
Thanks, man.
this is quality stuff here.
Yeah.
So that was really funny how I found you, but it was through search.
Oh, I love that. I had
Yeah.
no idea. See, there you go, guys. Search totally works. Um, Buconvo says, El Jefe, Tom has Heather's mic sounding right, but yours is tight as well. And if I'm correct, you're not using XLR. Bro, you tweaked that right. What's the setting?
So it is on USB, but there's no settings. This is literally USB into my computer,
Yeah, so is mine.
and that's it. Like I don't have the Shure app. I don't have anything going on. This is just
Do
a
we
mic.
sound different?
I don't know, but when I tell people it's half mic, half my voice. So
Oh, yeah, because I'm
and
like, dude, should
proximity.
I like, yeah, move over?
Yeah, like proximity too, because this thing is literally like a couple of inches from my
Real
face.
close.
Yeah, yeah.
Here we go. Yeah, I was just telling Jeff before the stream, I got the new Elgato low profile arm. Well, Tom got it for me. And I'm still trying to figure out positioning.
Yeah.
Okay, Matt, so tell me about your YouTube journey.
Sure.
What made you start a YouTube channel? I know you're a big audio guy. What was, you know, what was your first video? Why'd you get into this, et cetera, et cetera? Tell us your YouTube story.
Sure. So, well, initially, so I'm that guy before YouTube. I'm that guy who was always buying stuff. Like I was always buying stuff on Amazon, and I was always going to Best Buy and grabbing something, and always been into tech. So, um, at the time, I would say, 2012, 2013, 2014, I was getting this stuff, and I was leaving written reviews, on Amazon or on, Best Buy's website and stuff like that. But I wasn't really getting, there's no interaction there, there's no engagement, there isn't anything like that. So even though I was probably helping people's purchases, but my reviews are being buried anyway by all the higher level reviewers on Amazon. So, and I've been watching YouTube since, since it had 5-star rating systems and stuff. So, I was, been watching channels for a long time, and I was like, I think this is something that I could do. So 2015, I started really having this idea, like, I think I can do this. My problem was that I was watching these million plus subscriber channels, and I thought, man, I'm gonna have to invest in lighting, invest in cameras, invest in microphones, like do all this stuff. Um, so I started saving, and then I think it was in um, early 2017. I think it was around February, where I would come across a video of one of my friends who was doing a cell phone review, and he kind of slipped it in there that hey, yeah, I'm using this LG to shoot all of my videos, and I edit all of them on the phone, and I upload straight to YouTube. And I was like, full stop, you're doing what? So I left a comment and said, hey, are you really doing this all with your phone? And he was like, yeah. And two months later, I uploaded my first video. Once I
I love
realized I didn't
that.
have to invest,
Yeah.
it was well, just not invest money, but I just invest time. It was on. Like I started using my phone, and that was really where it got started. And I used the cell phone for all of my video content up until around 15 or 16,000 subscribers.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
seriously? Oh,
Hmm.
I'm totally going to use that. I'm totally going
Yeah.
to share that as a case study. That's amazing. So like so can you talk about momentum? Like at what point were you like, "Oh my gosh, this is a thing." Like this YouTube thing, this can actually be, bigger than I thought.
Yeah. I would probably say when it took me a full 12 months, almost exactly 12 months to get to a
Yeah.
thousand subscribers. And I was really happy about that achievement. I was like, all right, this is awesome. Like I made it to a thousand. Now let's see if I can make it to 2000 in the next 12 months. And by the time the next 12 months is over, I think I was pushing just under 10,000.
Yeah.
So
That's
that was growth
crazy.
that I was not expecting. And I was like, okay. But on top of that, the affiliate revenue was building. It was stacking up on itself. And I was like, it went from where I was making, 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks here and there to where it started becoming, a few $100s, 500,
Yeah.
600, 700. I was like, okay, this is becoming something a bit more serious on
I
top
see
of,
you. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So I was like, all right, so let's see what I can do if I really start to get a bit more serious about this, really focus my strategy, and seeing if I can. Basically the goal was to pull it off, to have my cake and eat it too, so to speak, where I can provide value for the viewers, for shoppers, give them the benefit of 100% real review, whether good or bad. But also, if people decide to buy, that I can also win with the affiliate revenue. So why not both? So that was the goal. Double down on that strategy and really turned it into something. And that's been kind of where it's been since. And the channel's multiplied in 4 years to 60,000 we were celebrating yesterday or the day before.
Yeah. Congrats on that.
No, thank you.
Yeah. So here's a question that I get. How do you handle products, or maybe if you only do affiliates, it's probably not an issue, but if you do sponsored content and you get something that's like not that good, do you still make the video, or, are you just pretty honest of like, yeah, I wouldn't recommend this?
Yeah, it just depends on what we do. Like I don't do a lot of sponsored content. I think there's a there's a bit of a barrier to entry there because I charge a lot. And it's one of the things where I'll say like, hey, listen, this is what you're going to get, and if they don't see the value, then it's like, then we're not going to do a
That's
sponsored
cool.
piece.
Yeah. Hmm.
But that's a thing. But aside from that, when they're giving me product, I make it very clear from the outset, from the first email, that I'm going to say, if they send this to me, I'm going to test it and I'm going to say exactly what's on my mind. They do not have a say in this. If it messes up, I'm going to say it. And
Yeah.
if it does good, I'm also going to say it. But I do my best to keep it as professional as possible. Like
Mhm.
I'm not to say I haven't done it before, which I regret, but I'm no longer going to like try to throw a company under the bus or anything like
Yeah.
that. It is basically I want to provide balance. I'm going to tell people what's the good, what's the bad, and then whether or not I recommend it. And that's really what it comes down to. I just try to keep it. Um, if anything, the focus is on bringing the value to the audience. If they send it to me,
Exactly.
they have to be aware of the fact that like there's been companies who've said, okay, we're cool, we're not going to send it. I'm like, okay, I guess if they don't believe in their product, that's on them.
Yeah.
But if something does happen, or if it's really bad, then usually at that point, it doesn't happen too often where something's so bad where I don't want to make a video, but it has happened. Then I just won't do it because of the amount of time. It's just
Yeah.
not
It's like not worth it for
not
you.
worth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll usually offer to send it back. I'm like, hey, this is not what it should be. I'll give them some constructive feedback on it. Like, here's how you can improve this.
Or here's
But
what happened. Yeah.
yeah, at this point, I've got too much on my plate. Like
Yeah.
I can't waste time on that. So yeah.
Yeah. So I used to call this like approach of focusing on the depth of the community versus the volume, the passion economy. And then last week I came up with to me a better way of framing it, which was the enthusiasm economy, because it's I felt like the passion economy focused really on people who could like create highly specialized services, like something like an online course or do
Mm,
consulting or coaching or something like that. But I was like, oh, the enthusiasm economy is like, you don't have to be the expert, you don't have to be, like a professional podcaster in order to make money talking about or helping people get started with podcasts. And I think you are a great example of this, because you were already like super enthusiastic about audio. Like you said, you were already kind of, this was already kind of like part of what you were doing. It just so happened it was like, oh yeah, I can, kind of translate this onto YouTube. And I think what gets lost sometimes in terms of new YouTube creators is people don't realize the sense of the responsibility that you have with people's like purchasing decisions, right? So we can make a
Hmm.
product review and just be like, yeah, sure, whatever, and you're just thinking about you in terms of how many views you're getting and how much money you're getting and all of that. But someone's actually like, taking their budget that they're like, they're saving money to buy the new thing. And if you're enthusiastic and you have all this experience because you're so excited about this like niche or headphones or whatever it is, you have that experience of being able to have tested countless headphones, more than the average person, and that perspective is like super valuable. And that's something that shouldn't come easy to a company, right? Like it's their privilege. And I think newbie creators are like, oh yeah, a company's like gonna send me something for free or is gonna pay or sponsor me or something like that. But it's like, no, they're partnering with you. Like they should be lucky to be working with you. So
Hmm.
kind of remember what you also, all the work that you put into your channel to build your brand. um
Yeah.
Really quick, so let me check in with the comments. I remember when El Jefe Reviews was filming with his phone. That's awesome. I love that. I love I love connecting with viewers who like have seen your growth. That's like so
Oh
cool.
yeah.
um okay, so let's see, can you talk about unique ways that people have been monetizing off of YouTube? Are there things that like I'm not thinking about, or that are totally crazy aside from just like affiliate, just
Trying
different
to think.
things?
I haven't seen anything that's super unique outside of what a lot of people have brought to the table.
Yeah,
I think the most recent one that I saw that was absolutely different was Mr. Beast doing the whole Beast Burger thing and going that
yeah,
route.
that was definitely different.
Um, Yeah, so that was definitely something that I did not expect, but I was like, you know what? That's pretty cool because he's thinking outside the box.
Yeah,
So I was like, all right, that's cool because most people are we're doing a lot of the same stuff, right? So we're doing affiliate marketing, we're doing brand deals, commissions, things like that. Also, a lot of people do merch, and then you have people who are, producing some sort of either a digital product, whether it's ebooks, learning, something like that, or then you have people who are producing courses and stuff like that. But aside from that, I haven't seen anything wildly different come up as of lately outside of what Mr. Beast did with that Beast Burger thing.
yeah. Mad Matt from Chicago says, "Love your thumbnails, Canva Pro."
No. So I was trying to learn how to use it, and I got some basic ideas, but I haven't switched over. And then I was also watching Tom's videos on what he does with Procreate, so I was learning that as well, playing around with that. But here's just to be, my thumbnails are incredibly simple. I use a Pixel phone to shoot a product shot in 16 by 9, and then I clean up the photo inside Snapseed, which is a free app for Google and for iOS, and then I add the text with another app called Fonto. So the thumbnails are 100% done on mobile still. It's just so much simpler for me to do them that way. And I can, my thumbnails, I can knock them out usually within, for a single thumbnail, probably maybe 5 or 10 minutes. I normally make 6 thumbnails for every video. But so I usually spend somewhere around 30 minutes to 45 minutes getting all of those thumbnails together. But they're all done on my iPad. I don't use Photoshop or Canva or anything like that at the moment.
Yeah, that's cool. I
Yeah.
love that. I love how everyone has a different process to YouTube thumbnails. I have to say it's not necessarily my favorite part of the process. Um, because I'm not, Tom will spend like 2 hours on his it's like it's like an art
But they're
piece.
so good,
But they're,
man.
yeah.
They're so freaking good. It's just like, come on, man. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah, he's like literally, I saw him yesterday like zooming into the, people are going to see this on their phone, but I mean that's like the level of detail that he goes into with his with his YouTube thumbnails. Which Pixel phone?
So I've been doing all my thumbnails with a Pixel phone since the Pixel 3A. And then we went to the Pixel 4 and then to the 4A and then to the 5, now on the 5A. I've been with Team Pixel now since the Pixel 3A was launched. So I've been blessed that every time they have a new phone launch, they send me a review sample. So I'll take a lot of pictures and stuff, and I show people like, hey, this is literally, they literally have a 16 by 9 mode on
Oh,
the phone. So like you
I
can
think
just
the
it's
iPhone has that
formatted
too.
exactly. Yeah, so you can shoot that way, and it makes it so easy. Their portrait mode for product shots is just phenomenal, and that's mainly what I use it for. So it's just too easy, and I tell people that all the time. Like, if you're going to be one of those people who actually shows their face on a thumbnail, to spend a day with their cell phone, especially if they have an iPhone or a Pixel with a good portrait mode, and just take a bunch of different headshots, and then use something like Canva to remove the background and whip out some awesome thumbnails.
Yeah, for sure. I can't fault Tom who doesn't smile looking at Tom's thumbnails. Is it me or is he really pixelated? I think you're a little bit
Yeah,
pixelated, but
I don't know what's going on with that. Yeah, it's
it's all
very
good,
weird. But
man.
it's got to be on my end because we see it here every now and then. I just do not know why it happens.
Yeah. Uh, so someone who's, you know, feeling stuck as a, say they're their first year of YouTube, what would be your advice to them? Say they're feeling overwhelmed. Jeff, I'm feeling overwhelmed. What's the first thing I should do?
Well, normally I tell people to take a break.
Yeah.
So that's usually what I'll tell people is to take a break because I went through my first burnout phase when I was around 600 subscribers. And it was because I had bad expectations. I was expecting to hit 1,000 subs within 6 months. And when I didn't achieve that, I got burned out. So I took a few weeks off to really get my head in the right place. But anybody who's feeling overwhelmed, I normally tell them take a break, however long it needs to be. If it needs to be an hour, if it has to be a day, a week, a month, whatever it's going to take for you to get better, then definitely do that because your mental health is much more important. The way that I deal with it during that break is by connecting with things that bring me joy, that bring me happiness, that help me relax. For everybody, it's different. For me, it'll be, music or movies, playing video games. A big one for me personally is building Lego sets.
Oh, sweet.
There's something, yeah, something very peaceful
Yeah.
about doing that. And it's something that I did when I was a child. And when I do it, it's like all the stress, all the problems, all the bills, all everything just disappears. And it's just me stacking bricks together. So you just have to find that thing. For some people, it's like working out, whatever it might be for you,
Mm-hmm.
but connect with that to kind of get yourself back in the right mental space.
Uh, what's the rest of your shirt say?
Oh, so it says trust your dopeness.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Is
So
that
it's
merch?
not
Where is that?
it's not my merch. It's one of my brother's friends who's a DJ out in Chicago, and it's the merch is done through a company called Beats for Hope, and what they do is it's sort of a split where if you have your merch on their platform, or if they invite you or whatever it might be. When your merch sells, the proceeds go towards local charities in your city.
Oh, very
So
cool.
yeah, so I'm looking forward. I've been trying to work with them myself because I want to create something awesome, but I also don't. I don't plan on trying to get rich or have merch as a revenue stream. Not there's
Yeah.
anything wrong with that,
Yeah.
but I want that to go towards the homelessness problem that we have in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
So if I can get in with them, then I'm going to be selling merch that's going to go towards
That's super cool.
homeless charities. Yeah,
Yeah. Um, that's dope. Pardon the pun.
yeah,
Let's see. Amazing advice. I just took a month off. Uploads to travel. It was so needed. Mental health so much more important. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Uh, so I know we're getting to the top of the hour. If you guys have any other last questions, feel free to drop it into the comments. Really quick, you mentioned finding your audience. Do you have any tips on that? So you knew like you're into audio,
Mhm.
and you've got products, so that's kind of like that's a niche in itself. But in terms of like who is this for? How did you find that? And like, how would you recommend other YouTube creators discover who their audience is?
I think it kind of came because at first my channel wasn't solely dedicated to audio, where I was doing general tech. So I was doing USB cables and battery banks and
Oh,
all
got
kinds
it.
of stuff. And but I was always into audio was always my thing, but I didn't realize that because obviously at the time I didn't realize that I really should niche down in order to grow. So, but every time that I would upload a video about an audio product in that mix, I noticed that I would get substantially higher views, much more engagement, But another thing I noticed that in those videos, I was always either one, more creative, or two, I was much more animated and much more excited about what I was talking about. So I
You
think
were
the
having
passion was
fun.
coming
Yeah.
through. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was showing up on the screen and that transference was happening. So when I started noticing that that worked, the data showed it. Views were higher, more subscriptions were coming in. So I was like, okay, engagement was higher. Then I started realizing, okay, these videos tend to work a little bit better. So then I had the idea of, I don't know if it was me. I think it was either Travis or my buddy Brandon from This Is Tech Today. One of those two guys was like,
Oh,
hey,
I know Brandon.
here's what you should do. You should
Yeah.
invest 5 to 10 videos directly about this topic, about headphones. Your next 5 to 10 videos should be headphones and earbuds only, and then see where this goes. And once I did that, it was over. And I really target that was
Mm.
like I was aiming directly at people who were looking at this burgeoning market of wireless headphones and personal audio. So and then ever since then I hit the ground running. Ever since then it's been on. So
How crazy. So there you go, guys. I know we always talk about niching down, but like here you go. Here's a case study. Uh it can't get any more niche than like
no,
earphone.
it really can't.
So that's awesome. And because I know some people are like, oh, I don't want to, box myself in or stuff. But I think
Yeah.
that you could like, that whole expression niche down to blow up. And then from there, you can start expanding and like, kind
Mhm.
of branch out 1 degree off of the niche that you're in. Uh,
That's actually the goal, and that's sort of the game plan of
yeah.
where I'm at, where I'll experiment with it every now and then. I'll upload a video that's sort of it's still tech, it's still adjacent to what I'm talking about,
Hmm.
but it's just a little off. Just something slightly different to see how my core audience responds. And I'm not talking about the 60,000 subscribers. I'm talking about that hardcore 2 or 3,000 people that show up for anything to see how do they respond. And the last experiment I did was probably around, I think it was around 45,000 where I dropped this video and this video outperformed and I was really surprised. Like they really showed up. So, but the goal for me was to get, somewhere around 100K and then I would really start kind of branching out into more where I would start talking about if anything televisions or laptops or
Yeah.
whatever other tech that I really want to get into, cameras or lighting, whatever, but really start branching out into other aspects of technology that right now the current strategy kind of doesn't fit that mold, at least not yet.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I I love how you said, the core community.
Yeah.
And it's going to be much smaller than your subscriber number. That's for
Oh
anybody.
yeah.
Yeah. Uh, but it I like that because, you're still talking to your core audience. And then I like the word adjacent, right? So you're kind of just like, it's not like yoga, but
Yeah.
you've already proven yourself in terms of the perspective that you offer, and you have a style obviously in the way that you deliver your content in your videos and stuff. So that is going to stay consistent. You're still consistent to your brand. It's just that, hey, if you like this, maybe you like this thing that's kind of like a little bit over here.
Yeah.
um Ron is asking, any Spotify playlists? I use music a lot to be in a creative space.
Not at the moment. I do need to work on those because originally I don't use Spotify. So just to be clear, but I do need to go ahead and start using it because for my own music, I use Amazon Music HD because they offer Ultra HD FLAC files, so very high quality. I was using Tidal for a while, and I use Apple Music, but I am working on building all of those playlists on all of the platforms so that I can offer something for everyone.
That's great.
Yeah.
Hi to everybody who's tuning in. Josh is here. Art at the Bookshelf Odyssey is here. Dr. Sev is checking in. Patrick Davidson is here. Hello. Anita has a question. It seems that since I narrowed my focus to alcoholics, I am getting activity more from non alcoholics. This leaves me a bit confused about who to speak to. Um, so I can give you a little backstory of Anita's channel. She is a recovering alcoholic who's been sober for 10 years.
Oh,
So
awesome.
she is like, her channel is meant to be a non-clinical resource for, people who are struggling with that. Do you have any advice for her?
Well, I think if anything, she might have accidentally found her audience.
Yeah, that's what I was
It
gonna say.
might be people who are non-alcoholics. Hopefully, it's good engagement, and that's the activity that she's getting. But if anything, I would really start focusing on what's working. So if there's a specific type of video that's getting more attention, then that's great. But I would continue. But even then, even with if the content she's making now, she's comfortable with it, and it's attracting the non-alcoholics, I mean, that could be the audience. It could be a mix of both, and maybe the non-alcoholics are more um, they're more vocal, they're more in tuned to engage with your content. So that's something that I would definitely look at the numbers, look at the analytics behind it to say, if I make video A, I'm getting much more traffic than video B, then I would start focusing on those topics that your audience wants from you. And you can also depend on the channel size, obviously, but you can also ask them. This
Yeah.
is something where if you have access to community tab, you can literally ask them and say, hey, what is it that you guys want? What kind of content are you trying to see? Do you like content A? Do you like content B? That's one thing I did. As soon as I got the community tab, I started using that for stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it really helps.
Yeah. And I'm wondering for you, Anita, is it non-alcoholics that are like family members of alcoholics, or like, maybe there's a subtext there that
Mm.
they appreciate your perspective because you get it, kind of thing. So maybe you can get a little bit more insight by just like asking them directly and using the poll option in the community tab. Wait, does the community tab, that's not open to everybody, right? You have to have a
No,
thousand
it's
subscribers.
usually, yeah, it's like 1,000 or higher. I know for some people it comes a little bit later because YouTube is they're constantly moving the goalpost. But it's one of those things that if you do have access to it, use it, please, for dear God, use it
Yeah,
multiple times a week.
I don't use
And
mine.
don't, yeah, I
I
was
need
like, I
to.
tell people like, don't just share your videos there. Photos behind the scenes, much more powerful for engagement, and polls by far. And it could be about anything. Are you breathing today? It doesn't matter, because what we're looking for is people to click on it and engage, because once they start engaging, even if they're not subscribed to you, because YouTube will push it out to people who are not subscribed to you, then you get them to engage, you get them to vote or whatever it might be. Then the next time you upload a video, even if they've never subscribed, odds are your videos are going to be pushed out to them by the algorithm, by suggested.
Yeah,
So this is something you definitely want to take advantage of if you have access to it.
I love this. So you just gave me homework because I never use the community tab, and I don't know why I don't. It never found its way into like my workflow. But so thanks, because that's the
Yeah,
tip that I'm gonna.
I'll make it
Yeah,
easier for you. You
yeah,
can schedule them. So you can schedule posts to go
really.
live on the community. Yeah, that's what I do. I'll sit down at the beginning of the week and I'll knock out 3 posts and I'll schedule them like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then it also gives me space. Like if something new arrives, then I'll snap a picture and I'll throw it in there as well. But yeah, you can totally schedule them out so you can fit it into your workflow and then schedule them and not have to worry about it. They'll just go live when they go live.
All right, that's what I'm going to do. So everybody here can keep me accountable. You got to see more stuff happening in the community tab. Homesick Mac says, so I'm good deep down niched on acoustic slide guitar within blues and folk. I mean, how many people play acoustic then slide compared to electric guitar? I'll get my thousands of subscribers in 2046. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it can be tough going from music channels depending on what you do. But I've spoken to plenty of them, including guitar channels and stuff. And I've seen a few that have had some excellent success because they were willing to go outside of their comfort zone. And that was something that, like, some of them were education, some of them were doing covers, and that's not what they wanted to be. But they flipped using covers to grow their own stuff, to where one of them is now
Right.
teaching actual virtual guitar courses and saved his home during the pandemic. So
Crazy.
yeah.
Yeah. Anita says right now focusing on answering questions that come from comments, and Roxanne and Melanie are chiming in on Anita's channel. So hopefully this feedback, Anita, is going to be helpful for you. Jeff, so we're at the top of the hour. Thanks, man. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate you. Where can people find you if they want more info? And also of vidIQ.
Sure. So, I mean, vidIQ, obviously you'll find them at either, youtube.com/vidIQ, easy to find. You'll see Rob up there all the time, or Dan, vidIQ.com as well. We're always running promos and stuff. So there are some good deals happening where people who sign up, I believe for, it's either a 2-month deal or the yearly deal,
The annual,
where
yeah.
you also get, the bonus of, having a coaching session with myself, with Travis, with Lexi, with one of the coaches. So that's a really good value. For me personally, if anybody wants to find me, it's El Jefe Reviews everywhere, on YouTube, on Twitter mostly, Facebook and Instagram as well. But yeah, man, I mean, I'm not difficult to find. You just have to spell it correctly, ELJEFE, and you will find me.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. Everyone in the comments, thanks for tuning in. And if you're catching the replay, thanks for being here. I'm always out of my comfort zone when I'm on camera. Thanks so much.
Mm.
All right. It has been great, everybody. And Roxanne saying thank you. All right, everyone. Thanks so much. Thanks again, Jeff. We so appreciate you. And we will see you guys soon. Bye, everybody. Hold on. And.